Have you ever considered a possibility? Those experts talking so fluently and endlessly in front of you, when they return to their office, they might just be desperately Googling for answers. Massive corporations may look like they operate on Earth, shattering secrets from the outside, but their core internal decisions are sometimes just made on a whim by the bosses. Just look at the collapse of the WeWork empire a few years ago. An ordinary office leasing company was inflated into a tech unicorn worth $47 billion, all thanks to the delusional presentations of its CEO and the blind backing of giant investment funds. The industry barriers that leave you in awe are actually sometimes just a fragile layer of paper that no one bothers to poke through. In 2023, a buzzword suddenly went viral: a makeshift crew. Many people heard it, treated it as a joke, laughed it off, and moved on. But the truly smart ones saw a massive opportunity in this very concept. Because when you realize that this world operates far from the perfection and precision we imagine, you will understand that the so-called dimensional strike has never been about crushing others with sheer ability. Rather, it is the process of harvesting benefits based on information asymmetry. Today, in this video, I will deconstruct a complete cognitive framework, how to identify gray areas and build information barriers, and how to reap extraordinary profits in these blurry regulatory zones. The most ironic part is that the people who actually profit from information asymmetry turn out to be the ones who look the most innocent and honest. Let me ask you a question. Do you think this world is run precisely by experts, or is it barely held together by a group of people just winging it? Most of us have been spoon-fed the first narrative since childhood. Teachers told you to study hard because society is fiercely competitive and experts are everywhere. Parents told you to get certificates because industry barriers are getting higher. The media constantly preaches lifelong learning because you could be eliminated at any time. But when you actually step into the workplace or the business world, you will discover a hilarious yet tragic truth. The vast majority of people are just pretending to know what they are doing. In 2019, a top consulting firm conducted a survey of over 300 managers at large enterprises. The results showed that 68% of respondents admitted the truth about major decisions. They rely mostly on experience, intuition, and their boss opinions, rather than professional data analysis. To put it bluntly, projects worth millions, affecting the livelihoods of thousands of people, are often just the result of a few people shooting the breeze in a meeting room for 2 hours and calling it a day. This is not an exception. This is the norm. The ancients saw through this long ago. The Tao Te Ching states, "The world is a sacred vessel. It cannot be manipulated," meaning, the system of the world is so vast that no single person can truly and fully control it. Lao Tzu warned you over 2,000 years ago, don't take any authority figure too seriously. They are also just crossing the river by feeling the stones. The phrase makeshift crew resonates so strongly, not because it is creative, but because it pierces through an illusion that our collective society is trying to maintain. That is the illusion of the professional myth. When you believe the other person knows more than you, you automatically hand over the pricing power. When you believe the rules are perfectly designed, you automatically give up looking for loopholes. When you believe the industry has high barriers, you automatically lock yourself out. But the truth is, most barriers are just a cognitive tax. Most rules are the product of information asymmetry, and most authorities are using your awe to maintain their facade. If this world is truly full of makeshift crews everywhere, then where does information asymmetry come from? And who is deliberately creating it? Information asymmetry is not a flat surface. It has a three-tiered structure, each corresponding to a different profit model. The first tier is the time gap. For the exact same information, someone knows 3 months in advance, while another waits until it hits the news. That empty time window in between is the profit margin. Real estate brokering, insider stock trading, or predicting policy shifts are all classic battlegrounds for the time gap. The clearest example is the explosion of TikTok Shop in mid-2022. Those who caught the info and jumped in early could close thousands of orders a day just by shooting videos on a crappy phone. Now that everyone knows and has jumped in, ad costs have multiplied tenfold, and profit margins are almost zero. The barrier at this tier is your network. Who you know and which dinner table you sit at determines how early you can touch the core information. The second tier is the decoding gap. Looking at the same public report, one person only sees numbers, another sees the logic behind the numbers, and yet another sees the trend behind that logic. Remember back in 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic first broke out, the vast majority of the crowd saw reports of airlines and tourism losing money, panicked, and sold off all kinds of stocks. But savvy investors decoded a different trend. The global supply chain was going to rupture. They quietly accumulated shares of shipping and logistics companies. As a result, freight rates skyrocketed, and their portfolios multiplied by 5 or 10 times in just a single year. The barrier at this tier is your cognitive framework. The model you use to decode the information determines how much value you can extract. Warren Buffett's annual shareholder letters are read by the whole world, but those who can extract an investment direction from them are 1 in 10,000. The third tier is the execution gap. This is the most easily overlooked tier, yet it yields the most lucrative profits. There is a massive chasm between knowing and doing. Look at the story of the video rental empire, Blockbuster and Netflix. Blockbuster's executives knew full well the trend of online streaming was coming, but they hesitated, unwilling to smash their current cash cow. Meanwhile, Netflix bit the bullet, went all in, discarded the past, and ultimately sent Blockbuster into oblivion. Most people know they should wake up early but can't. Know they should save but can't keep their money. They know artificial intelligence is changing the world, but they only use it for entertaining chats instead of learning how to apply it to their work. They know they should take action, but just sit there doing nothing. The barrier at this tier is execution capability and risk tolerance. Do you dare to place a bet while others are still watching from the sidelines? That determines whether you get to eat the profit pie of information. These 3 structural tiers expose a cruel truth. That is, information competition has never been a one-dimensional game. Someone might lose to you on the time gap, but crush you in decoding ability. Someone might tie with you in decoding, but leave you miles behind in execution. The one who truly makes sustainable money from information builds advantages on all 3 fronts. They have their own information channels, analytical frameworks, and decision-making discipline. Conversely, those who are constantly exploited usually fail at all 3 tiers. Their information source is scrolling social media, and their analytical framework is personal feeling, and their execution model is let's wait and see. With information asymmetry existing, why do some people strike it rich while others fall deeper into traps? The answer lies in the concept of the gray area. The gray area is where rules are not clearly defined. It is a blurry zone, a middle ground. It is a flexible space where doing it this way is fine, and doing it that way is also fine. In this world, the real battles of wits don't take place between black and white. They happen between dark gray and light gray. Look back at the early days of ride-hailing apps like Uber or Grab. They blatantly operated in a massive gray area of traffic laws in countless countries. No one could define whether they were a tech company providing software or an actual transportation taxi firm. While traditional taxi companies organized strikes and cried out for fairness, Uber and Grab fully exploited the lag in legislation to dominate the entire market and become billion-dollar empires. No matter how detailed company policies are, they can't cover every situation. No matter how strict the law is, it can't plug every loophole. No matter how clear the unspoken rules of an industry are, they won't stop a clever person. The gray area has 3 characteristics. First, ambiguous rules. No one will tell you if doing this is right or wrong. You have to judge for yourself. Second, delayed punishment. Even if you do it wrong, you won't be punished immediately. Third, asymmetric benefits. Rule followers get meager rewards, while rule breakers can reap massive profits. These 3 characteristics combine to create a bizarre chessboard where the conservative suffers, the reckless hits the jackpot, and the rule maker takes it all from both ends. Take an example. Commerce platforms prohibit fake order brushing, but at the same time, they use sales rankings to allocate traffic. As a result, honest sellers who follow the rules see poor sales and shrinking traffic. Clever sellers find the gray area, using loopholes to legitimize fake transactions. Their sales explode, dominating the rankings and the platform. It collects advertising fees from both you and your competitors. The rules of the game are their money printing machine. This isn't the platforms being evil. It is the inevitability of an infinite game. In any system, the rule maker always holds 2 privileges: the right to interpret and the right to turn a blind eye. The right to interpret decides what breaks the rules and what bends them. The right to turn a blind eye decides whether they let you off the hook or make an example out of you. These 2 privileges are the ultimate source of information asymmetry. Because the true boundaries of the rules aren't written on paper, they exist in the minds of the enforcers. Whoever can get close to the enforcers will know where the true boundaries lie. The people who truly thrive in the gray areas are not the smartest or the most well-resourced. They are the ones who know exactly when to stop. They know which lines can be touched and which red lines must never be crossed. They know when to pull back and when to go all in. They never stick their necks out to take the hit, but they always get the juiciest piece of meat. This ability is called boundary perception. It is not innate. It can absolutely be trained, but before you train it, you must understand the core algorithm beneath it. Dimensional strike is an overused concept, but few understand its true meaning. It doesn't mean you win because you are better. It means you and your opponent are fundamentally not playing by the same rules. You are playing a different game, but your opponent thinks you're playing the same one as them. That is the essence of a dimensional strike. A mismatch in the rules of the game. To leverage information and create this dimensional strike, there are three core algorithms. The first algorithm is finding the information valley. This is a place where people are clearly willing to pay for certain information, but its spread hasn't been monopolized yet. 10 years ago, teaching e-commerce sales was an information valley. 5 years ago, making short videos was an information valley. Today, applying AI is an information valley. In early 2023, when ChatGPT was newly launched, writing a few lines of prompt was a basic skill for techies, but to outsiders, it was nothing short of magic. Many people took advantage of this valley to sell basic AI books or courses for millions of VND and pocketed a fortune. The characteristic of an information valley is that the basic knowledge of industry insiders is an earth-shattering secret to outsiders. The second algorithm is packaging your cognitive positioning. The exact same content, packaged differently, will have vastly different perceived values. It's like selling a regular bottle of purified water for 5,000 VND. But if you slap a label on it saying imported volcanic mineral water for cellular alkalization, you can confidently sell it for 50,000 VND. An ordinary document file can't be sold for money, but call it an industry data analysis model, and you can sell it as a course. A random share of petty experiences will get no listeners, but rebrand it as bloody lessons after 10 years of real-world battles. And you can sell consulting services for tens of dollars an hour. This isn't a scam. This is value translation. You don't need to create value out of thin air. You just need to take existing value and articulate it in a way the other party can understand and appreciate. The third algorithm is creating transmission friction. This rule is counterintuitive. Most people think the wider information spreads, the better. But veteran information players will deliberately create barriers, because once information spreads without friction, the asymmetry instantly drops to zero. That is why true money-making entrepreneurial circles have entry barriers of hundreds of millions of VND per year, whether it is a paywall, a relationship barrier, or a cognitive barrier. These barriers aren't meant to keep people out. They are meant to create scarcity. Only with barriers will internal business opportunities not leak out into the free information wasteland. Only with scarcity can you set a price. And only with a price can you make money. These three algorithms put together form a closed-loop information business model, starting from finding the valley, packaging the position, creating friction, and completing the loop. Many people hear this and rush out to do it with burning enthusiasm, only to fall off their horses because they forgot the most crucial step: protecting themselves from being dimensionally struck in return. In the casino of information asymmetry, there is an iron law. You can be one step ahead of others, and others can be one step ahead of you. No one can stand at the headwaters of information forever. True masters don't just know how to attack. They focus even more on defense. Defense has three principles. The first principle is source awareness. When you receive any piece of information, ask three questions. Who released this information? What do they gain from it? And why did it appear in front of me? For example, when you receive a hot stock tip on social media, ask yourself, if this deal is so sweet and the win rate so high, why don't they quietly mortgage their house and borrow from the bank to play it? Why do they have to go online to broadcast it and share that kindness with you? Don't rush to ask how this information benefits you. If you don't understand the other party's motives but are already calculating your own benefits, you are not making a decision. You are acting out someone else's script. The second principle is multi-dimensional verification. A single source of information is the most dangerous source, no matter how credible it seems. Find a second or third independent channel for cross-verification, because every source has its blind spots and its own stance. The third principle is presetting your cost. Before jumping into the game, ask yourself, if this fails completely, what is the maximum loss I can bear? If it exceeds your tolerance threshold, don't play. This principle helps you filter out 90% of impulsive decisions. As for offense, The core of attacking is continuously creating cognitive assets. It is your deep understanding of a field and how you transform that understanding into a communicable format, an in-depth analysis article, a methodological framework, a proven judgment model. Those are cognitive assets. Information expires, but cognition is always scarce. When you have cognitive assets, you create a positional advantage. The things others have to spend time figuring out through trial and error, you already have the answers to. When your cognitive water level is high enough, information will naturally flow toward you. Returning to the first question, in this world that acts like a makeshift crew, what is the true competitive edge? Not degrees, not networking, not even working ability, but something called sober clarity. Sober clarity is not cynical resentment, nor is it passive surrender. It is the ability to simultaneously see the order on the surface and the chaos deep below. It is the ability to survive within the rules of the game without being swallowed by them. It is knowing how to leverage information without letting the information backfire on you. Zhuangzi once said, "Even if the whole world praises you, do not be conceited. Even if the whole world condemns you, do not be disheartened." That state is called inner stillness. In this era of information overload and rampant anxiety, inner stillness is the scarcest resource, because all the harvesting out there is fundamentally harvesting your attention, emotions, and judgment. Only when you pull your feet out of those whirlpools can you clearly see the entire chessboard. By then, you will realize that a makeshift world is nothing to be afraid of. The most terrifying thing is that you have also become part of that makeshift crew, without even realizing it. The biggest lesson we can take away is to never let the glamour of this world intimidate you. The truth is that everyone, no matter how high their position, is just learning as they go and feeling their way step by step. So, instead of feeling inferior and thinking you're inadequate, start leveraging the smallest advantages you currently have. The most practical way to apply this to your current life is to immediately stop waiting for perfection. If you discover a valuable piece of information or an opportunity, don't hesitate. Test it immediately with the lowest possible risk cost. Make it a habit to verify everything you hear by constantly questioning the hidden motives of the speaker. And most importantly, dedicate time every day to self-study, reflect, and turn your own experiences into cognitive assets. When you stop fearing the illusory barriers set up by others, you will see that opportunities are always scattered everywhere. As long as you keep a cool head and absolute clarity, you will never become a victim of the information manipulation game. Remember, the difference between winners and losers sometimes just lies in who dares to step onto the world stage earlier. Now, I have a small question for you. Have you ever discovered an astonishing makeshift truth in your own industry or company? Feel free to leave a comment below to share your perspective so we can all learn and reflect together. And if you found value in this video, please take a second to hit the subscribe button. Your enthusiastic support is the greatest motivation for this channel to continue producing even deeper and higher quality content in the future.